Jason made a lot of waves in the auction with his giant bull. The sheer size of the animal had everyone shocked and amazed. However, the auctioneer had a different perspective and he was suspicious of the farmer. Those suspicions were so troubling that he decided to call the police. It turns out that would be a wise choice. Welcome to Wonderbot Animals. Farmer Jason had no idea that an auctioneer would uncover his big secret when he showed up to the auction with his bull. He was very excited about the money he would make from selling the bull, but the day would take a turn for him. When the police showed up and Jason realized they were there for him, he tried to get back to his truck and escape, but it was too late. He was arrested and he knew it was all over for him. But how did we get here? And how did the auctioneer know what Jason was up to? Well, let's see. Jason had been a farmer for some years and he owned a huge bull. Anyone who laid eyes upon the animal was amazed by its size and presence. So, Jason knew that if he took the bull to an auction, he would get a lot of money for it. But how did the bull get so big? That was Jason's secret, and he wasn't about to share it with anyone. Other farmers would always ask him, but Jason remained silent every time. He only shared his secret with a select few, and they promised to keep quiet about it. Not because it was such an amazing method, but because it was a terrible one. When Jason decided to auction off the bull, the people who knew about his secret tried to make him change his mind. If he was caught, they would all be in trouble just for knowing. But Jason was greedy, and he was blinded by the idea of a big payday. So, he was determined to go to the auction. On that day, everyone at the local auction house was incredibly surprised to see Jason's bull come in. The bull was different due to its size, so everyone was immediately interested in the animal. Jason had to provide the age and weight of the bull, but when people asked about his methods, he stayed silent. This made everyone even more interested. What was his big secret? No one at the auction house had ever seen anything like Jason's bull, and no one could believe the number on the scale when they weighed the animal. It was the heaviest bull they had ever had, and the auction house workers didn't really know what to do. Should they authorize the bull for sale or not? So they called the auction house owner to make the final decision. The auctioneer was very curious about the bull, so he decided to allow the animal to go up for sale. After that, Jason took the bull for one last inspection, and once again, all eyes were on his bull. The auction house said they had to keep the bull for a day because the animal was so big they had to be thorough with their inspection. As they measured the bull's size, weight and height and took other information, the auctioneer asked Jason how he got the bull to grow so big. However, Jason refused to say. This only made the auctioneer more suspicious. He thought there was something wrong with the animal, but he didn't want to alert Jason. So, he told the farmer that his bull would earn him a large sum of money. That information made Jason very happy, so he was comfortable leaving the bull at the auction house for all the inspections. Jason said goodbye, planning to return the next day for the sale. Once everyone left, the auctioneer got to work. He knew what he had to do, but he also knew he had to be careful, or things could get complicated very quickly. First, the auctioneer knew better than to try to solve this mystery on his own. He needed help. While calling the police would be the go-to answer, the auctioneer wanted to be more discreet, at least until he had proof that there was something wrong with the bull as he thought. Fortunately, the auctioneer had a friend, Nick, who was just right for the job. When Nick got to the auction house and was introduced to the bull, he didn't even want to go near it at first due to its size. Eventually, he inspected the bull and decided they had to call a veterinarian friend of his who worked with livestock. That's when Jessie entered the picture. She was more than willing to help, but she wondered why Nick was calling with such an unusual request. He didn't want to give her any details until she arrived, so she hurried to meet him at the auction house. But before we get into that, make sure to like this video to help it reach 10K likes and subscribe to the channel. As a veterinarian, Jessie was used to getting calls at all hours of the day and night. However, she was worried about Nick's urgency, and she had a feeling something was very wrong. When she got to the auction house, the auctioneer showed Jessie the documents and photos they had about the bull. At first, Jessie thought the photos were a joke, but Nick and the auctioneer convinced her they were real. The size of the bull was unlike anything she had ever seen before. She insisted on seeing the animal up close, and the auctioneer prepared her for what she was about to witness. Nick and the auctioneer lead Jessie to meet the bull. She looked at it for a long while, unable to process the size of the animal. She slowly approached and felt the bull's muscles and back. There were no tricks or jokes, the animal was real. But how was that possible? Once Jessie recovered from the surprise, she started to think about the situation logically. There were only a few reasons why a bull could have gotten so big, so she had to examine it to find clues. The first thing she noticed was that the bull's teeth were in poor condition. Its knees were also not straight because it was struggling to support its weight. Eventually, Jessie came to formulate a theory about how the bull got so big. She informed Nick and the auctioneer what he had discovered, and the three of them had an idea of what to do. They couldn't be obvious because they didn't want to make Jason suspicious. If he thought something was wrong, he might disappear. Nick knew they had enough information to arrest Jason, but first, they had to get him to the auction house. Without telling Jason, the auctioneer informed everyone else that the auction had been cancelled. As far as Jason knew, everything was going just as planned. When Jason woke up in the morning, he was delighted that auction day had arrived. He was hoping to make a lot of money because he was planning on reinvesting in other bulls. He had no idea he was walking right into a trap. After breakfast, Jason fed the other bulls and rushed through the rest of his chores. He was so anxious to get to the auction that he ended up leaving early. The parking lot was nearly empty, but he didn't think much of it. After all, he was there early. Jason hurried to meet his bull. He wanted to feed him and brush his coat so the animal looked perfect. Once Jason finished preparing the bull, it started to dawn on him that no one else was at the auction house. The auction was about to begin. But where was everyone? So, he went to look for the auctioneer, but he couldn't find anyone. Additionally, he discovered he was locked in, so he started calling for help. A few minutes later, Jason heard sirens approaching. He was so happy to hear that help was on the way. Maybe something was going on, and that's why they had locked up the auction house. He screamed to let the officers know he was inside, but he had no idea that the police were actually there for him. When no one came to open the door right away, Jason started kicking the doors to let people know he was trapped inside. Finally, the door opened and Jason was relieved to see the officers. However, that relief was short-lived because as soon as they saw him, they handcuffed him. Jason didn't know what was going on, and he asked them why he was being arrested, but no one said anything to him. The police escorted Jason into one of the cruisers and locked him inside. As he watched the scene, he noticed the auctioneer standing nearby talking to a police officer and a man he didn't recognize. Then, a woman appeared with his bull, and she was pointing at different parts of its body while talking to the police, who were taking pictures of the animal. That's when it dawned on Jason that his secret had been found out. It turns out Jason was illegally breeding and mixing different types of bulls to get them to grow so large. It was a form of animal abuse because the bull was suffering. It wasn't meant to get so large. So Jason ended up in jail, and his bulls, including the one at the auction house, were taken to a local sanctuary. Can you believe this story? Let us know what you think in the comments. It's awful what some people are willing to do for money. Before you leave, remember to like this video, share it, and subscribe for more. See you in the next video.